Every time she introduces me, I keep waiting for, who is that? Who's going to speak? Even when I saw this up on the screen, I was like, oh, I can't wait to hear about that. Our purpose is to amplify. And what's really interesting, especially when you walk and live in spirit, is that spooky things happen all the time. One of the spooky things that happened is when I was asked to speak probably about a month ago, Spirit said, well, just here's the topic. I had no idea what that was going to be about until I got a call that Tom has made his transition. Now, Tom was one of the biggest amplifiers in my life. He encouraged me so much. And he encouraged me with such positive words every time I came to speak here. And so he is an amazing amplifier. And I'm going to talk about why we're all amplifiers. I want you to think of it in that way because I'm a visual learner. And when people talk about abstract terms, you know, it's kind of woo-woo. You got to kind of read a book or go to a workshop. I want you to get it visually. So Spirit says you're an amplifier. If you look up amplifier in the dictionary, it says that it's an electrical device that boosts a signal. Wow. It's an electrical device. We're electrical devices. Do you know when you go to the doctor, they hook you up to a machine, they test your heart with an EEG and EKG for your brain and all of that kind of stuff. They're testing the electricity. And based on the vibration and the frequency, it does a little line like that. So we're electrical beings. We have electricity. Our heart runs on it. Our brain runs on it. And so when you look at yourself as an amplifier, you have to ask yourself, well, what's the signal? The signal is the universe, is God, is mind. That's a powerful force that is sending a signal through you, shows up as you, and you amplify it out to the world in everything you do and everything you say. That's why when someone comes up to you and says, you know, what you said really touched my heart. It really changed me. What are they doing? They're amplifying that signal of good to you. And where does it go? Well, I'll tell you where it goes. It goes in the electrical signal of your heart. You got the image? You don't need to read a book. You don't need to go to a workshop. Just get it right here that we can amplify the signal of God and it can be stored in another person's heart. Amen? Amen. Oh my gosh, when I got that, I was just like, that's why you can defy death. Because that person becomes a signal. Let me put it this way. When the body, this electrical signal is no longer viable, you become a signal. And you can download to other people. Now, that's not woo-woo, and yes, I do live in Sedona. So, but don't let that fool you. What I'm saying is that we become one with the divine source, which is signal. And then we can download in everybody, not just based on location. Okay, that's pretty powerful, I know. But let's look at this. If we know that God is all there is and love is all there is, then it's not defined by where you live and your location. It's all around us. But the thing that frees you is this physical form. Because now I can just be one with signal. I can just be one with source. Does that freak you out a little bit? Because, okay, it freaks me out. That's why I have to check in, because I'm getting God bumps up here. And you get God bumps every time you know you're speaking the truth. And sometimes you don't know if it's landing. And let me put it this way. It doesn't matter if it doesn't land right now. There may be a time in your life where it may land, because what I'm doing is I'm sending a signal to your heart. And when your heart expands and when you need it the most, that positive information will pop out. Have you ever heard of somebody, they've gone through a significant loss or tragedy, and they say, you know what, I have a peace that passes understanding. And you go, wow, why do they have this peace that passes understanding? I have a theory about that. And that's because someone at some time put an energy signal into their heart, and it expanded at the time when they needed it the most. And it just comes out as this energy. And they don't know exactly where it comes from, but they just know that there's a peace there while the world is falling apart. And you can have that too, because it's not based on what the world is doing or what the outside is doing. It's based on what is inside of you, in your heart and in your mind. And when those things are in sync and in alignment with the signal, you become an amplifier of peace and love, regardless of what's going on outside of you. That is joyful. What it tells you is that you defy death, you defy depression, and you defy all of the crazy and chaos that's going on. Have you ever been with people that are watching the news and they try to tell you all the crazy that's going on so that you can kind of take in all that crazy and feel bad about all that yuckiness? And then there's something inside of you that says, well, I know that that's the news, but there's a truth inside of me that is opposite of that. You know, I feel pretty peaceful. My life is pretty good. I feel pretty loving. I was at Walmart and I was bigger than the Walmart greeter. I just was like saying hi to everybody. And I just feel love and compassion in my heart, even though there are people that I should feel resentment toward. What is that? What that is that you're an electrical device, and you have been tapped into a signal that is of peace, love, and joy. It's internal. And I'll tell you another thing. It's eternal, because no one can take it from me. What they have to do is I have to give it to you. You can't take my joy away. I have to give it to you. And why would I want to give away something so precious, so wonderful? What I want to do is I want to amplify all the stuff that's in me, all the peace, all the love, all the joy. And when I do that, it's going straight to your heart. And when you need it, in times where your brain is on overload, you have every reason to be depressed, all of a sudden you'll just be like, wait a minute, I know I could be really angry or depressed, but there's some light going. What is that? I mean, I'm just kind of laughing at what is going on? It's because that thing that has been planted in you can never die. When your body goes bye-bye, you become a signal, and you are not isolated by time or space. When you really get that, you'll get goosebumps. Or God bumps. You might not get it now, but my prayer for you is when you're ready, when you're at your lowest, or even when somebody else is at their lowest and you have an opportunity to amplify, you'll get it. You'll get that message. And it won't come from me, it'll come from your heart. That is the biggest amplifier. You're amazing. You're precious. I go to the mall and there's a lot of people around and I'm like, look at all of these amplifiers. They're just amplifying the signal that we all have access to. I'll tell you a little story. There's a Kwanzaa festival that's going on in Sedona later on in the month. And I was talking to someone from South Africa, and I know a little bit about Africa. I don't know about the spirituality of the Zulu, and he was explaining the spirituality of the Zulu, and it gave me a brain freeze because they have ancestral worship. And he was trying to break it down as to what that means, that they really, really love their ancestors, and they have ceremonies around their ancestors. And they said the reason they do that is because you may not have evidence of God that you can see. I mean, you do have nature, and yes, that's from God. But they said, but your ancestors, their wisdom is everywhere. And it's released through death. I didn't know that. I love learning things new. And I just got God bumps when he was explaining to me that their wisdom is all around and it's not contained by a body anymore. And that they become the signal for God. The signal of their wisdom is all around, and we can tap into that and it can go into our heart. And I was like, oh, wow. That's amazing. I'll give you an example. If I want to be an encourager, and maybe that's not how I grew up. Maybe my parents were not encouragers. But I want to be. Then I can look to Tom, who encouraged me all the time. And I can take on his energy. Why? Because I have that memory. I have that experience, and he injected it into my heart. So I can be that now. Not fake it. I can actually be a really good encourager and a good hugger, because he was a good hugger too. Do you see how that works? You can't kill anything that is of love. That's why they call it eternal. It's eternal. You can't kill it. You can't get rid of it. And there's this story, I don't know if you remember it. It's about Jesus and the resurrection. You can't kill that. But what you can do is instill it as the signal, and it becomes eternal. So that thousands of years later, we know the feeling of the Christ consciousness, which is love, unity, and joy. Isn't that wonderful? That no matter how crazy, chaotic the world gets, that we can still defy. It's almost like defying gravity. We can defy all the things that we think we're supposed to be sad or angry about or crazy about. We can always defy that. Now, in this song, it's real popular right now because of the movie coming out, but defying gravity. Because this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about going above and beyond what you think you are, because you can defy gravity. Let's play that.
Something has changed within
Wow, she's 12. She's 12. Can you imagine that? I mean, she knows there's a signal. Can you feel the signal coming through her and her amplifying that she's defying gravity? That's the power that we have. We have the ability to amplify this signal that is all around us, that's made up of the universe, that's made up of source, that's made up of our ancestors, that's made up of everyone that has crossed over, that used their gifts, their talents to be an amplifier. And so when they amplify, I'll give that singer as an example. She's 12 years old on stage in front of that audience. And everybody just loved her performance. And they're clapping and clapping. And that goes on for a long time. We cut it short, but it goes on and on and on, the clapping and everything and the applause. And then they push a button and all the confetti comes up out of, everywhere. And it's just a celebration. But I want you to recognize that she touched people's heart when she was singing. That's why they're applauding. Whenever you see something and it touches your heart, whether it's a performance or everything, it's a way of showing the appreciation and that you touched me. When she leaves the stage, of course we want more, but we'll remember what she gave us in that song. You can't kill that. So what I want you to recognize is that when someone touches your heart, that stays there. That is eternal. And it also gives us permission to be amplifiers as well. Let's take a deep breath. Most of our lives we've been taught that we're not very powerful, that we're just this. And that is so not true. And oftentimes it's the dark night of the soul when we really have to go within and say, what is it that I've believed for so long that's not fitting with me listening to that signal and amplifying what I'm supposed to amplify based on my purpose. And some people say that everybody goes through a dark night of the soul. And I think the dark night of the soul is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to step into a different identity that is more powerful than what you were raised to think you were. We're living in a world that poo-poos our power. And so right now we have an opportunity to look at all the good experiences, all the positive, wonderful things that have been injected into our heart. And we have to ask the question, what have I held on to that's not allowing me to defy gravity? I think that's a good question. Another question is, what in my heart can I bring forward that signifies peace that passes all understanding? I love you all. And there's a signal coming through that says, I know. I'm sorry. And I love you. And your love itself, your peace itself, your joy itself. Let's take another deep breath of knowing. And let's go into a wonderful prayer. Love Love is something that we are, something that we are born to be. It is in our DNA. And when we choose to amplify this internal process is also eternal. We recognize that as we broadcast it out into people's heart, that it is an eternal process. That this brings joy to other people. And when they need it the most, that's when it will amplify as well. We are all here to make bigger, louder the signal of God, the signal of Source. So no matter where we go or where we are clear with that signal. And we have access to that all around us at all times. This power that we feel never leaves us. And when we have the opportunity to speak love, to be there for someone, let us not be afraid to tap into what has been stored in our heart. Let's take another deep breath. And let's put our hand on our heart, knowing that this is where our power is. This is where our love comes from. This is where our feelings are amplified, where our emotions are tender. And this is where all of that wonderful amplification of others has been stored. And we give ourselves permission to listen to that signal and to amplify it through our heart. We let it be so. And we know that love is all there is. And so it is.